Who deserves the benefit of the doubt? And why should we judge? Perhaps it's better not to judge at all. I'm Gila Ross, host of the Power Up podcast, and together with my fabulous Wednesday night discussion group, we look at this hot topic of judging other people. Speaking about judging people, right? And I think it's something that a lot of us have felt has come quite topical, whether we feel judged for the decisions we have made or whether we are judging others for the decisions that we make. And sometimes, even if we are the ones that are doing the judging of others, like it comes almost like instinctively, like, you know, you hear someone did something and you're like, how could they do that? And we may not even like that part of ourselves, right? So does anyone remember what the Torah expects from us with regards to judging other people? Anyone remember? Nope, no one at all.
To judge favorably?
Maggie, to judge, exactly, to give the benefit of the doubt. And we spent a long time talking about it last time, and we spoke about what the benefits are. And one of the things that we said was it's incredible for our relationships, right? You know, if you, sorry, let me just let the last person in. If you have if you have someone that in a relationship, right? If you give the other person the benefit of the doubt, it resolves a lot of conflict. But that was the discussion that we did last time. But what we wanted to look at this time is, who do we have to give the benefit of the doubt to? Can anyone guess who we have to give the benefit of the doubt to? Does it apply to everyone? Does it apply to people that we like? Does it apply to people that we don't like? Does it apply to good people? Does it apply to bad people? Who do you think it applies?
I guess in theory it applies to everybody. If you're going to try and be non-judgmental, you want to try and give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, so Gemma's raised a very good point, and she's saying that perhaps we should give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And as Nava also says, now, who either agrees or has a question for Gemma on that?
I think
we have three people, so this is fantastic. Let's go with just in order of screens: Beth, Joe, and Gemma.
I was just going to say, doesn't there come a point where you have to kind of use your own judgment as well? Because you can't just you judge favorably, but there comes a point where there is a level of right and wrong. You know, you can't just say, well, that people let them do what they want. You know, you have to kind of, at some point, you have to say, no, that's not okay.
He scores. His last goal was for Wigan against Fleetwood in 2018.
Right, so what do you think?
I was just going to say.
Which Gemma?
I know, me, I think. Me?
Yes. Yeah. Just order of screens, but no favoritism here. Okay.
I was just going to say, you don't know what situation everybody's in, so you never know the full story.
Absolutely, you never know the full story. So you're backing Gemma up, right? Beth is kind of asking Gemma a question like, doesn't there come a point where you have to say, no, that was wrong? And Joe is saying, you never know the full story. So I'm sure Gemma's going to resolve all of this very shortly.
Yeah, give me 5 minutes so I can just think of an answer.
Okay, we'll give you 3, whatever. You're good. You've got 3 minutes. But in the meantime, I think Gemma might have something to weigh in and say.
For me, Gemma.
Other Gemma. Yeah, you. Yeah.
I've always ever been the only Gemma. I think, judge favorably and give people benefit of the doubt. Unless you're in harm's way. I mean, you're being held at gunpoint. You're not going to be like, maybe you got out the wrong side of bed. You're going to be like, you're a bad man. I am running. So I think, that's my input.
Okay, so you use
Gila as well.
Yes,
we have to use our own judgment at times, as you said. It's I wouldn't necessarily give everyone the benefit of the doubt if it's a situation that could put someone in danger or children in danger, for example. Sometimes you have an inkling or you have to go off previous history or what you know of that person already to make that decision.
That is a great point, and I think you're just backing Gemma Lowe up, because you Beth, like Gemma gave us an extreme example, right? But I think even not an extreme example, but let's say you have someone in your life that keeps letting you down, right? Let's say they keep borrowing money from you and they don't pay you back. Do you have to keep giving them the benefit of the doubt and thinking, oh, they're going to pay them back? So that we have a very strong from Joe.
I was just going to say that I think you probably have to judge most people favourably, or most situations favourably, but obviously there's always going to be extremes where, you know, I mean, just as a very extreme, like Hitler, like you're not going to judge him favourably. Like when somebody's done something so beyond any favourable judgment, then you wouldn't.
Okay, that is a fair enough point. Okay, so I think there were a lot of good points raised, and if Gemma doesn't mind, I'm going to weigh in with a little bit of an answer to that question. So interestingly enough, what Beth I think was bringing up, I think both Beths actually said this, is the idea that you can't keep on putting yourself in harm's way. If to put it very bluntly, you don't have to keep being naive. So you're absolutely correct, right? The Torah and Judaism does not expect us to be naive, right? And what it's requiring us is to think of other before we make a judgment, right? Because very often, if you think about I'll talk about myself, right? If we think about ourselves and how we judge other people, right? Very often we hear or we see something and we instantly make a judgment, right? So the Torah is saying, stop, take a moment, and we're going to think, because there's a source in Pirkei Avot that gives us it tells us that this is what it says. It says, judge everyone favorably. So Maimonides is asking on that, what does it mean to judge everyone favorably? So Maimonides tells us this applies to somebody that you don't know. And in this understanding of the text, it's telling us that there are 3 different categories of people. Number 1 is someone who is called a tzaddik, who's called a righteous person. Number 2 is someone who's called a bad person, an evil person, right? Like Tash told us, Hitler, right? I think we can all agree that is an evil person. And the 3rd category of person is a stranger, someone you don't know. Now, before we're not done yet, because what it's telling us is, what this means is it doesn't go on the person, it goes on the action, because people are complex, and you might have someone who is a righteous person when it comes to money, but is a terrible person when it comes to being on time, right? What do I mean by they're a righteous person and a terrible person? It means that whenever you lend them money or whatever, or when they go to a shop and they make a mistake or whatever, they're always careful to pay back, or to be honest with their money. So in that sort of situation, that person's considered a righteous person within those actions. But the same person may always be late, right? So what does this Mishnah tell us? That let's say you've got this person, and let's call her, trying to find a name that's not on here. Let's call her Annie. Right? Now, Annie is, I managed. How wonderful is that, right? So Annie is always honest when it comes to money. She'll pay you back. She'll make sure that she never, she never takes something without permission. She never borrows something. She's always honest, right? But the same Annie is always late. Every time you meet her, without fail, 5-10 minutes is going to go past, then she's going to show up. Now, let's say one day you're behind Annie in the shop, and you see her walk out of the shop paying for all of her groceries except for a cucumber that's underneath it, and she walks out the cart without the shop without paying for the cucumber. Do you have to give her the benefit of the doubt? Anyone?
Yeah.
As in, it could have been hidden.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could anything, like maybe she forgot, maybe she didn't realize, maybe it was her cucumber from beforehand, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter what the benefit of the doubt that we give them is, but in that situation, she's always honest. We got to give her the benefit of the doubt, right? That's what the law in Judaism is, that in such a situation, you'd have to give her the benefit of the doubt. Then you're supposed to meet her at 2 o'clock for a walk, right? And 5 past comes, 10 past 2 comes, she's still not there. She shows up at 2:15. At 2:15, do you have to give her the benefit of the doubt and think, you know what, she probably really tried to come, but like something out of the ordinary happened? Do you have to give her the benefit of the doubt? Anyone?
I'd expect it within a personality.
No, you don't have to give her the benefit of the doubt. Exactly, because she's always late, right? So you don't have to suddenly start assuming like, oh, you know, she was whatever. Again, that doesn't mean that she's. Also, what we're differentiating here is between judging actions and judging people, which we'll get to in a little bit. But here you see a person who's a perpetual wrongdoer in this particular area, and they mess up again, they do the same thing again, they keep you waiting for 15 minutes. You don't have to start saying, oh, you know, something extraordinary must happen. You could just think to yourself, she's late again, right? Like that's the way she is, and whatever else it is. Okay, now let me give you a few examples, right? So let's just say you're in the gym, and you you're in a swimming pool, right? And you hear another parent, a parent that you don't know, dressing their child, and the child picks up a pair of trousers and says, it's not my child, you can't see it's not my trousers, you can't see what's going on. But the child, you hear the child saying, it's not my trousers. And you then hear the parent say, just put it on anyway. This situation, you don't know the parent. You don't know the parent, you don't know the child. What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to give the benefit of the doubt? Or are we supposed to think, gosh, that parent's, you know, stealing someone else's trousers? Or do we give them the benefit of the doubt?
I would probably assume it's a siblings.
That's what I was going to say, because I've done that before.
Yeah, same.
And I'd be thinking she's just trying to get all the kids dressed and ready after swimming, and you're probably not going to care if there are siblings. You just be like, just get them on, I don't care, and get dressed and get out of here. That's what I think. Yes,
just get them on, right? But again, we're not accusing the parent of stealing someone else's clothes. We're assuming that there's a legitimate reason there, right? Like their own or whatever. Now, interestingly enough, it's considered praiseworthy to give the benefit of the doubt for someone that we don't know. Okay, let me give you a story. Okay, so there was once, and I want you to sort of guess the ending. Tell me what you would do in that sort of situation and guess the ending. So there was a rabbi called Rabbi Shimon Schwab, and he was once at a big outdoor football game or something like that, and he sees a Jew that looks observant, an Orthodox looking Jew, and they go over to the non-kosher hot dog stand and start eating a non-kosher hot dog. In that situation, do you think the rabbi has to give the Jew the benefit of the doubt? Any thoughts on that?
I don't think it's about a question of giving benefit of the doubt. It's how he's going to react next to make sure that neither party's embarrassed, or I think it's more that side of thing than, well, maybe he had it because it was obviously not kosher. I think the question's probably about something else, about his reaction. I don't know.
So I think you're raising a very, very good point, which just highlights the need for, because if we want to create a situation where the rabbi and this guy, it's not a difficult situation, right? Then if the rabbi gives him the benefit of the doubt and thinks to himself, and I don't know if anyone here can come up with some sort of outlandish and crazy idea of how it could possibly be not wrong, then he's not going to be embarrassed to meet him again. So Nikki K says low blood sugar and desperate. So either she read my notes or she read the book where I was reading it from. Because this is the truth of the story. The rabbi thought to himself, you know what? I have to assume that if this guy looks obviously observant, then he is a tzaddik in the area of kosher food, right? Again, the definition of a righteous or an evil person goes on the actions, right? So if someone looks obviously observant, we have to assume that they keep kosher, right? So he thought to himself, if that's the case, then I have to assume that there is something going on. He assumed maybe he has an illness, that whenever the symptoms set on, he has to eat something right away. And in fact, the next time the rabbi went into the hospital to do his rounds on the ward and to visit people, he found that indeed this was the case. The person was had whatever illness it was, and the symptoms came on, and he had to eat something, which in that case is perfectly halachically acceptable. In fact, he has to eat it, and he did nothing wrong. But do you see what's going on here?
Can I just say?
Yes.
Obviously, I'm not judging the guy, but could he not have just got a bread and some chips rather than the actual sausage? So was there a reason why he had to have the meat, is what I mean?
Right. I don't know his history.
No, I'm not judging him, I'm just asking.
Right. You're asking a good question, right? And I don't know, and whatever, we have at least one, if not more, medical people on the call who might be able to give more information about what the what that sort of thing could be, and what what they would have to do. But I think what the story highlights is that if I was to see that, right, and I would see some, it's obvious that they've done something wrong, right? Like there's nothing, you can't sort of say, oh, it's not like the case where the trousers in the gym in the swimming pool, and you sort of think, you know what, that could happen to me, like it could be their siblings or whatever. Like it's you see an observant looking person and they're doing something that's obviously wrong. But what the Torah here is telling us, if you see someone who's usually right in that sort of area, who's usually meticulous about keeping that sort of area of law correct, then you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? And the flip side is also true, that if you see someone who is ordinarily not particular in a certain area, who ordinarily is, I don't want to use the word evil because it's a very strong word, but who's ordinarily wrong, or let's say someone comes to you and they have a record of borrowing things and not returning them, or borrowing things and returning them ruined, right? And they come to you and they ask you for something to borrow from you. You don't have to give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to say, oh, you know what, like that maybe they've changed over a new leaf, right? Maybe now they're going to start looking after things. No, the onus is on them to show you that they've changed their behavior. So in that sort of situation, when someone is a perpetual wrongdoer, then you don't have to give them the benefit of the doubt. In fact, at that point, you assume that they're just doing it wrong again, that their action, that they made a mistake, they're doing a bad thing again. Does that sort of clarify it so far? Yeah. All right. So and again, which really brings us to the next point, which is, whoops, sorry, hold on just a second. What happened here? Sorry about that.
Here you are.
Yeah.
surely on the subject of judging, we shouldn't judge others all the time anyway, because it's not our business if they look like they should keep kosher and they don't keep kosher. If you don't keep kosher, that's your business, and if I don't keep kosher, that's my business, and it's not for us to judge the other person to what they're doing.
Okay, so I want to say I love that question, because basically I think what Sharon is asking is, surely, you know, the Torah is telling us don't judge others. The Torah is not telling us don't judge others. The Torah is telling us give people, basically what the Torah is telling us is give people the benefit of the doubt, unless you know that that person is always doing wrong in that particular area. And in that case, you don't have to assume that you know, they were doing the right thing. You don't have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, Sharon is saying, surely, you know, it would be better if the Torah would just tell us, don't judge, right? Don't judge. What's it your business to start judging other people? Now, anyone wants to try and answer that question?
Unless, of course, it's against the law or it's detrimental to life and death of someone else or anything like that. Then, if it's harmless, then it should be their business and not ours.
Okay, but
I think if you don't judge anyone at all, then you're also not judging the good stuff. And if someone does something good, you know, I think if you didn't take any judgment on anything, then you just stay neutral about everything. So you wouldn't like elevate the good things that people do, as well as sort of, you know, dismiss the wrong, not dismiss, you know, think that the wrong things are bad. I can't get my words out, but there wouldn't be that difference.
Right.
I think not just that as well, like in just in general daily decisions, we make judgments, like who we pick as friends, who we pick as our spouses, who we, you know, what jobs we get and who we're going to hire for a job. You know, we're making judgments like all the time, every single day. So I think to say not to judge as a blanket rule is probably impossible, because we have to judge on something with like daily decisions even.
I think also as well, it's not a case of not judging or judging people, but sometimes you have to, depending what you do or the situation is, maybe intervene or give people guidance depending on the situation. Like in my job that I do, you know, if I come across people going through certain difficulties or making choices that are detrimental to their welfare or their family's welfare, sometimes we have a duty to maybe step in and talk to them and offer guidance, but obviously in a way where we're not judging.
That is a good point. Does anyone else want to say something? Joe, I think.
I feel like you are always going to judge someone, but I suppose it's whether you vocalize it could be the difference. I think it is a natural thing to, if you know, to judge somebody about something that they're doing, but I suppose it's whether you kind of say that to them or other people.
Right.
Is what makes the difference.
Yes, I think what Joe and Lisa are saying, and then I'm going to go to Nikki, because I think Nikki has something to say, which is a very good point, is that human nature is that we do judge, right? Who are we kidding? We judge all the time, right? Whether we like it or not, you know, you can turn around and say, oh, let's not judge. But the reality is we do make judgment calls the whole time. Nikki, what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was just going to say also, you can, I guess, judge an action without judging a person overall. Like, I guess I'm thinking like the way we try and parent kids as well, like to look at a behavior but not to label a person, and also like to be flexible with our judgments, because if we judge a person as opposed to a behavior, then you might always expect that behavior, and it kind of clouds giving the benefit. Although you were saying that maybe if someone's reliably doing something, then not always to give benefit of doubt, but like sometimes you can become, I guess, too firm in your judgments, and then like not open to people changing or doing things differently and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is a good point about not being too firm. Just what this is saying is that what Laura is saying is that the onus is on the person to show that they've changed before they earn your. And if you think about it this way, right? Let's say you have someone in your child's life who always lets your child, or not always, or often lets your child down, right? And let's say they'll call and they say, can I take your child out? And you tell your child and they get all excited. And then last minute, they're like, oh, I'm really sorry. You know, something came up and they've done, and you know, if they do it once, okay, but if they continue to do it, are you going to let them set up another situation? You're not going to give them that benefit of the doubt, and the onus is on them to show that, you know what, I have changed, I have now become more trustworthy. So that's what I think that is protecting against, is saying, don't walk around with your eyes closed, right? That, yes, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt, and especially in a situation where it's someone who we know it's out of character for them, right? Whatever happens right now is out of character. So in that situation, for sure, you have to give the benefit of the doubt. If you don't know the person, we should give the benefit of the doubt. It's a praiseworthy thing. But if you know that the person in this particular area is lax, or this particular person, you know, if let's say someone, anything, right, is lax in a particular area, you don't have to give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to start thinking they owe every single time you know, a story that in your mind for why it could be. But I wanted to go back to Sharon's question, because I think Sharon was asking, why does the Torah tell us to judge? Surely it would be better to tell us not to judge. So there's two answers, and the first answer, Lisa and Joe told us, was that human nature is that we judge, right? Human nature is that we judge. So that is human nature. Before we judge, and I think Doris said the same thing, is that, sorry, let me let Lisa back in, is that before, what the Torah is telling us, before we jump to a conclusion, stop, think, and try and give the benefit of the doubt, right? Now, there's a second reason as well, and I think Beth was saying this reason. The second reason is because when you live with an attitude of, I'm not going to judge, live and let others be, it's quite a detached way of living, right? And I'll tell you an example, a story that happened to me that I don't know if I did the right thing. You guys can weigh in on it. I still feel a bit conflicted about it. But I was once in Heaton Park during one of our many walks during lockdown that we took, and I saw another family, and the parents were sitting on the bench, and the child was a small child, I don't know, maybe 4 years old, running around with a lollipop in their mouth. And years ago, when my kids were little, I was once in shul in Vancouver, and one of my kids was running around with a lollipop, and the pediatrician, who also happened to go to the shul, stopped me, and she said, you know, that can be really dangerous, because if your kid trips while they're holding a lollipop, it can go all the way through the roof of their mouth. And I was like, I never knew that. And I was so grateful, and it's a choking hazard, etc., etc. And I was so grateful for her for telling me that. Now, again, I didn't make a judgment, but I didn't know whether it was the right thing to go over to that person and tell them, because part of me felt like, you know, we live in England, and it's a very much, you know, keep your distance. If I'm correct, I mean, I'm gonna go down here as like, you racist, xenophobic. Look what you wrote about you said about the Brits. But I felt like, part of me felt like, I don't know, if I say something, they might take it the wrong way, and they might think. But then, so I didn't end up saying anything. And part of me feels like that's a really important thing to tell another parent, like, not in a bad way, not in like, you're a terrible parent and how could you possibly do that? But maybe you didn't know this, and I appreciated it when someone told me, and maybe you'd appreciate knowing it too. So what my point with this whole long-winded story is, besides getting it off my chest, because I still feel like really bad for not, I don't know, I probably should have, I think I probably should have said something. What do you think?
No.
Gilla, I kind of, and it's really hard, isn't it, to you don't know who you're talking to and how they're going to take it, but it's like, if you stop judging, and it's not always judging. Sometimes it's just caring, and it's almost as if you can't not judge. You can't not judge, because it's like you say, it's a detachment. And if you care, then automatically you have an opinion, and it's possibly judgment. I don't know, but
So I think Hayley, you hit the nail on the head, right? If we live with an attitude of don't judge and let everyone do their own thing, it's a very detached way of living, right? And when you care, you have an opinion. I love the way you said it, Hayley, because it takes me back to the first 2.5 years after we got married. We lived in Israel, and my son was born after 1.5 years. So we lived there for, I don't know, a year with a baby. And if anyone has ever been to Israel with a baby, you know that you walk down the street and someone will tell you, your baby's wearing a hat, they're gonna overheat, right? And you take the hat off and you walk down, and someone else will look over to you and you're like, where's your baby's hat? He's gonna get too cold, right? You can't walk anywhere without people sharing their opinion with you. Of course,
they fed my babies once. I took them to the Tipat Khalaf, which is the Tipat Khalaf for the babies, yeah.
Yes.
And this sweet lady started feeding them. Again, it's cultural, I think, and I didn't. Honestly, I wasn't offended by it. She just heard one of the babies crying, and she just took a piece of bread and started feeding him, and he's like trying to speak to me because he didn't speak English, and my Hebrew was not as good as enough to communicate. But they were feeding my baby.
Yeah,
I remember seeing someone at Heaton Park with, it was in the summer, it was a really hot day, and she had over her baby's buggy a really thick blanket over the buggy to keep the sun out. And I remember hearing that can actually be really like suffocating for a baby inside a buggy to have it fully covered without airflow, even if it is to block out the sun. And I literally, she sat next to me on the bench, and I just said, "Oh, is your baby like hot in there with a blanket?" And she literally said 2 very, very rude swear words to me and walked off. And I felt like, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Like, it's just, but at the same time, I feel like if I didn't say anything, I'd feel horrendous for not saying anything. It's like, it's such a hard balance.
Yes, it is a hard balance, yeah.
And I think it bothers you because you actually care. It comes from a caring point. It doesn't come from judgy point. You just actually care.
You just don't want a baby to be suffocating. Of course.
Exactly.
Yes.
Not everybody takes it that way, but I think it's also cultural. I agree with you. It's cultural too.
It's definitely cultural, and I have to say, like, in the beginning in Israel, it drove me mad, especially like when you're a new mom and you're insecure and you feel like you don't know what you're doing anyway, and then you have all these people like throwing opinions on you. But eventually I got to a place where I realized they do it in Israel because in Israel, they feel like we're all brothers and sisters, right? So if my brother or my sister, my nephew's walking down the street and he's not warm enough, of course I'm going to say something because I care about him, right? And if I think that they're too hot, I care about him, of course I'm going to say. And that's, I think, why the Torah is telling us not don't judge, because that's too, aloof and too, we're supposed to be a part of society, an active, caring part of society. And in order to be an active, caring part of society, you do have to judge actions, right? We do have to judge actions. And again, to say something like, where a child, where, I think these sorts of situations where what Lisa was saying, or what I was saying, where you see that a child could be in danger, right? It can endanger them. We do want to be able to say something like that, because I mean, personally for me, like, I am so grateful to that pediatrician that told me all those years back, don't do that because it could be dangerous. I had no idea, and we all want to keep our kids safe.
Yeah, Gail, I think it's like what you said, it depends on the person, and then obviously, like the other lady said, it's a bit of a risk because you don't know that person when you're going to give what you think is useful advice. But I remember, like, so for example, when you're on holiday, you're in a quite hot country. I was like in Italy. I think I was in, say, Sardinia, and Georgina was quite a bit smaller, and I always take out lots of different layers, even though it's hot. But later on, when it gets a bit cooler, but this one particular night, I forgot to take like an extra cardigan for her. and we were near the beach, and then there's obviously the sea breeze, and I felt terrible because I thought we need to go back to the apartment, which wasn't too far, but when you're out and then one wants this and one wants another. So anyway, with this woman, obviously it's an Italian woman, she works in one of the shops, and she had all these like beach towels and things. We just happened to slowly walk past, and I was thinking, oh no. And she came up to me and she says, for the bambino, I give you towel. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I was like, to pay for it. She's like, no, fine. She said, I just live up there. And she showed me the house. She said, just bring it back to like the next day. So I gave her the towel back the next day, and I was so pleased that she gave it me, like, because I didn't have to go all the way back and Georgina was warm then.
Yes.
So I was quite happy with that.
And it's thank you, Nancy, because again, it's just another thing how it shows that when sort of, again, we're judging actions, right? We're judging actions, not people, because people are complicated. And the truth is, and I'm gonna end with this and then wrap up, is that people are complicated, right? And even though we think we know a person and we think we can judge a person by the actions, the reality is that, I think Joe said this right at the beginning of the class, everyone has a story, and we don't know what the story's going through, what they're going through. And actions sometimes aren't the best way to judge the person, right? And I'll share with you a fascinating idea that we hear from. So Bilam was a non-Jewish prophet, and he was asked to come and curse the Jews. And there's a whole long story, but basically God didn't want him to go, but he decided he was going to get paid and he was going to go anyway. And he goes on his donkey, and they go on the way. And all of a sudden, you know, this crazy story that happens, and then this miraculous thing, but the donkey starts talking, right? And what happens is Bilam hits the donkey, and the donkey turns around to him and says, why are you hitting me? Don't you know that I am your faithful donkey? Like, what have I ever done in the past? Like, I've always been good to you, and just this one time I'm not doing something that you wanted and you lash out at me. And what's going on here? Like, crazy story, a miracle of a talking donkey. But there's an incredible lesson that God wants to teach us with that. And this is, I think, when we do this so often, and I talk about myself, I do this a lot of times, right? Where you know someone and you have a great relationship with them, or a good relationship with them, or an okay relationship with them. And then out of the ordinary, something weird happens, and you're like, boom, that's it. And what the donkey from Bilam is saying, hold on a second, if you have an okay relationship with someone, even an okay relationship, and they do something that you think is a terrible thing, don't write them off, because there must be something going on beneath the surface that is causing them to do it. And even though we can judge the action and we can say that that action is wrong, but don't write the person off. Right? Do we hear the distinction? So just to sum up what we spoke about today, is Sharon raised the brilliant question of why judge at all? And we saw two things. We saw, number one, we judge because it's human nature to judge. So once we're judging anyway, let's give the benefit of the doubt. Number two, that we don't want to take a step back. We want to be active, caring members of society. And in order to do that, we do have to get involved. We do have to judge. We can't just sit back and say, no, I do my thing, you do your thing. That needs a very, very cold community. And that's not what the Torah wants from us. It wants us to be involved, caring people. And as Lindsay told us, you know, like caring from a place like, so I'll give you my towel so that you can keep your child warm, which doesn't happen if you don't say to yourself, wow, that child must be cold, right? Without judging the parent of Lindsay. And we said that it goes on actions. Someone who is generally good in this particular area, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Someone who's generally bad in that area, you don't have to give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to start assuming, oh, something must have happened and that's why they did it. And someone that you don't know, or you don't know that particular area, it is a good thing to give them the benefit of the doubt. And again, we judge actions, not people, because we never ever know what's going on in a person's life, or what internal struggles they may have that's causing them to do whatever this action is that is even if the action that is something that you judge to be wrong. Thank you so much for spending your time listening to this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. You can get in touch on Instagram. You can find me at Gila Ross. And if you liked it, follow to hear future episodes. Thank you again for spending your time with the Power Up Podcast.